get started, we're lucky to have our guest today, Dr. Jeff Guan, who's a UofL graduate and a PhD, and I've known him for many years. There is no need to mention how many, but they are enough, and we look forward to more years of interaction. Uh, Jeff has been a leader in our College of Business after his graduation with a PhD in Computer Science and Engineering, and he led many initiatives there, new programs, and was associate dean, interim dean, and now I think he resumed his job back as associate dean. And we're lucky to have him agree to share with us some of his intuition. Uh, Jeff, would you like to start by maybe saying a few words that you want to share with the group here about your perspective on yourself, some reflections first?
Well, thank you, Dr. El Maghrabi. And when I took Dr. El Maghrabi's class, computer simulation, and it was such a long time ago. But yes, my name is Jeff Guan. I'm the associate dean for programs at the College of Business, and and of course I also have a background in computer engineering. And so when I joined the College of Business, I started thinking about the academic programming innovations at the intersection of business and technology. And now it seems to be the perfect time for true innovation to occur. And it's my personal opinion that AI is taking off because the user base has exploded. And so it's no longer people like Dr. El Maghrabi that will be able to work on AI and create really cool things. It's the vast user base. So for example, I have a former student called Sarah Battier, and she's an MBA grad, and she's working as a product designer. And it's amazing the work that she's doing using AI in product design. She's totally transforming that particular line of work. Thank you.
Well, that's a great introduction because, as some people like to say, democratizing AI is the current trend. But as we know, with anything you democratize, there are side effects, there are winners and losers. So we want to move to maybe thinking a little bit. Would us, the computer people who started the AI revolution, be the first losers or will be the winners? And that's, I know, a loaded question. You don't have to answer full, but give us a little entry point and we'll follow up with more questions.
Thank you. This is a great question because it's near and dear to me, and I am, after all, still a computer science major, right? And I mean, I went through that process. I remember working on an image processing project, and I had to do a fast Fourier transform, and there was no Google at the time. I don't know how many people in the audience are have a computer science background, but it took me weeks to write the algorithm, test it, because they had to work for all different cases, exceptions, and so on and so forth. So in the sense that today you can do amazing things in minutes as opposed to weeks or months. That's really progress. But at the same time, it does affect people who have been traditionally trained. I don't think in a negative way, but maybe in the short time when people figure out how to really use AI, and there's going to be some uncertainty. For example, Mark Benioff, who's the CEO of Salesforce, he recently claimed that Salesforce, their developers are able to gain about 30% in productivity. Now, I think it's very, very powerful because all of a sudden, if your workforce can do 30% more work, right, without increasing costs, that's a very, very powerful incentive to adopt AI.
That's a very interesting is, which is really the positive aspect of AI is the increased productivity. But since you are in the business world as well, in the College of Business, and you all train managers who become CEOs, and they like to cut costs. So, do you think the positive productivity issue becomes a negative issue in terms of human resource and human resource hiring? And particularly, I've heard recently people characterize the trends in hiring now as a diamond, where the entry level jobs are being lost and some of the top level jobs are lost, with a focus on the middle people who are already knowledgeable. And how does it affect the hiring and the career paths of our graduates?
I'm very impressed by you, Dr. Elmo Gandhi. Apparently, you read a lot beyond computer simulation and cybersecurity. And this is very, very true. And in fact, there's a Wall Street Journal article this weekend about the Walmart CEO saying that um, AI is going to affect every job at Walmart, right, which is one of the largest employers on this planet. And at the same time, the Accenture CEO, in his quarterly report, said that they're going to lay off about 11,000 employees in the next few months. And I forgot exactly how he put it, but he said that people that cannot be AI adjusted be let go. And this is serious. This affects individuals, affects people's lives. Imagine yourself, right, 45, working at Accenture, and all of a sudden being told that you may lose your job, right? And you have a house payment, and you have kids that are going through school, and this is real, right? And so we can never lose sight of that. And so as business school professor, I think it is very important for senior management or anyone really to manage this change process carefully. And so this is happening not only at select companies, but Salesforce, I was talking about Salesforce, they just laid off about 4,000 salespeople because AI can all of a sudden now do a lot of the work salespeople do. So I don't have a good answer to that. I think there's going to be a lot of displacement, as in the past, technologies tend to collapse the structure of an organization so it becomes more flat. And this is happening again, except that the difference this time is that it happens so fast and affects so many people. And I'm still of the opinion that eventually new jobs will be created. Don't know where, but I'm unlike many of my colleagues who are concerned about this. I'm a little more positive in the long run. I think it's going to be have many positive effects. For example, your generation, looking at the people here in the room, your kids would ask you, how could you let someone die because they have cancer, right? And so that's a really things that we could focus on. But I understand in the short run, there's going to be a lot of disruption, a lot of misery, if I could say so.
Okay. Speaking of this new generation, I tend to tell them you have to create your own brand. And because you have to distinguish yourself in a tough market, and you're competing with your colleagues. At the end, whether you like it or not, at the job market, you're both competitors. And you said something that I fully subscribe to, but I want you to expand on, is people are not being replaced by AI. They are replaced by people who know how to use or leverage AI. So can you expand on this kind of concept of job replacement? Most jobs, the AI doesn't do it fully autonomously.
Okay. Um, it seems as if Dr. El Mughrabi could read my mind because that was exactly what was going through my mind as he was asking that question. So branding, how do you prepare yourself for an AI-enabled economy, which is happening now, right? And um, so this is what I mentioned this earlier that this is happening fast, right? Technology. I mean, we have had technology transformations in the past, right? Like the internet, which is one of the most recent. And but this time it's happening so fast. Sometimes we don't know how to cope with it. But I also think that for people in this room, with the exception of Dr. El Mughrabi and me, I mean you're young and you actually I would embrace this change because Accenture is laying off 11,000 employees because companies are saying these consultants, they come in, actually, they learn on the job. We're paying them for them to learn AI, right? Because they are no better than us. And this is a point that I would remind everybody, especially people that are younger than Dr. El Mughrabi and me, to focus on because you can become an expert. And there are a few experts at Meta, OpenAI, and so on and so forth, but those are too far and few in between. So you can become an expert if you apply yourself, if you be consistent. That's all it takes, right? And by being associated with high, for example, you already have an advantage because you're exposed to it all the time. And um, so I would say um, expose yourself to AI, and also make sure you have domain knowledge, which is critical because we, of course, in the engineering school, we're excited about building a better mousetrap. Most of the users, most of the organizations are interested in catching the mice, right? So therefore, you have to have a domain knowledge and so that you can apply AI. And that's where most of the opportunities are going to exist.
Wonderful perspective, because that really brings me to the other issue, which is yes, we're creating AI experts supposedly in engineering, but the world, as you said, is not all engineering. So that's why I'm noticing sometimes that people from other than AI are better users of AI sometimes. And this kind of surprised me many times. I meet a doctor and they have really been looking at AI very seriously, or
Right.
even a lawyer
Yeah.
or a businessman.
Mhm.
And how do we create this? And many of them, from my perspective, don't know the depth. But my philosophy, and I just want to challenge you to tell me I'm wrong, is maybe we should teach people to create teams rather than to work as individual contributors. I'm the AI expert, and I know I am the legal expert, but I'm very good in AI. I'm the doctor, and I'm very good in AI. And I'm a businessman, and I know the AI. I don't need an expert, which I think limits the growth versus a super team that has people who understands the different perspective. What's your view on this philosophy? So I think it's a very important mental change in management, particularly of
Yes.
creating teams rather than hiring, claiming this is the best one who can do that.
Excellent question. So engineering, if you talk about engineering in general, I think it's going to be critical. It's going to be even more important, like chemical engineering, electrical engineering, industrial engineering. Those fields will remain critical and become even more important as we build a new future. Computer engineering, I think probably that's what Dr. El Mughrabi had in mind when he said engineering. So I think this field will continue to be important. Uh, and let me talk about that specifically for a second. I think, especially when you're solving engineering or more technical problems of a more technical nature, then AI is at the point, even in near future, uh, can't replace a human being. In that, what you get out of AI really it depends upon what you bring to AI, right? And having suffered through writing a program to implement fast Fourier transform, now if I were to use a software package or something like that, right, that provides AI, I will be in a better position to judge the quality of the output and use that, say, for example, in the next step to create a different product. I hope I'm making the point clear. And as for the other half of the question about non-technical users using AI, and I agree, first of all, yes, so teams are important, and we actually have had examples of software teams in Louisville that work with product designers, that work with designers, and so on and so forth, much more closely. In fact, I would say the even though the teams are important, but when you design a product, you design a product to solve a identified need, right? Say, for example, you design a product, a drink, a new drink, because you perceive that there's a market for it, or you design a new vehicle, and so on and so forth. And so the people who design the product tend to have a much deeper understanding of the requirements, of the potential consequences of one design consideration as opposed to another. And software happens to be just one part, one link in this part of the link in this process. So I see in the future the designers will play a much bigger role, but in software products of any degree of complexity, I think computer engineers or people who are trained as a computer engineer still have a critical role.
Well, maybe I'll ask you a different perspective about the AI stamp. Everything people are now doing, they say is AI.
Right.
I'm faced with people coming to us, I want an AI to do this, I want an AI to do this. And many of these are problems that already there are classical solutions that maybe can be wrapped within AI. So, what is the ethical response for these graduates when they are asked, I'm hiring you to build an AI to do this? And they know the AI doesn't add any value except maybe in the user interface or in the conversation, but not to the core of the problem.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's a great question, and I think there's some hype, right? AI doesn't solve all the problems. In fact, for a vast majority of the U.S. companies, by vast majority I mean probably 70% or so, they are not ready to adopt AI because their organization is not in a place where AI, as we know it today, like the large language models and so on and so forth, can be deployed successfully, because they still suffer from the traditional problems of silos, of information systems, the lack of one version of truth. Say, for example, accounting defines revenue in one way and sales define it in a slightly different way. And then, of course, the senior management wants a quarterly report, and then only to find out that the two sides to reconcile the differences, it would take a lot of resources. And so that's just one simple example. I could go on and on about stories like that because it's so common. So yes, and those are traditional computer sciencey type of engineering type of problems, and I think I would say engineering students will have opportunities for many years to come, simply because of the nature of those problems and how common those problems are. But in the meantime, in the short time, currently, these CEOs they don't have a clear future, and so the best thing to do in times of uncertainty is not to do anything.
It sounds very interesting, way. And I really appreciate that very honest answer because it's challenging.
Yes.
Uh, Let me just maybe get a little bit about training people in AI in academic perspective versus in business that are pouring I don't know, billions, not millions of dollars in data centers and resources. How do we advise these people about scaling up their experience to be at the level of the marketplace? Because universities and training grounds don't have the resources to invest in these hours of AI on these big systems. And if I use some of the open things, I'm exposing also data to some like things that I shouldn't expose. So we want to train them on these very large systems that we yet train them on what I call prototypes and things that are good for training, but not necessarily what they be exposed to in the job. And it's a strange balance that didn't exist in the past.
That's very true. And for example, Louisville uh, Poe and Company, which is a large construction firm, is involved in the discussion, a very serious discussion of building a very large data center in Louisville. It's $11 billion. I mean, that's for Louisville, it's pretty big. And so this is a scaling problem that Dr. Elba Brabi talked about, because I, I'm vaguely aware of this problem, because if you want to do anything serious, the university really couldn't afford the kind of infrastructure on site to support that kind of research work. But we have bright minds here on campus, right? So how do we resolve that? I don't know. Maybe by leasing services. I remember that when I took my graduate class called VLSI, very large integrated circuits design class, and we didn't fabricate the circuit here in the speed school. We would design the circuit, and then it's software design, right? And then the circuit would be shipped over to California someplace, I forgot where, and we actually got a chip back. I lost the chip when I moved. I should have kept it. And so maybe that model could be used again in
Well,
today's.
that I do fully agree. The challenge here is even university budgeting to pay for AWS or Google is really beyond budget. And we're looking at even quantum for AI. Use a few minutes of quantum on IBM is beyond expectations. We're working on AI in different ways. And and that's so when we create these visions, we work with AWS, students can test it, but at the end, for example, one of the demos we created, I had to put my own personal account. And obviously that was not sustainable. I closed it after a while because we know we have agreements for students and for faculty, but these don't scale up to the level also. So even with the least services, there is no academic funding for basic learning. And I don't think you can solve it because it may be even a national problem. But I know that many succeeded by learning, and then they go there and they learn very fast. So I think we should instill in them the ability to learn rather than the actual full-scale learning happiness.
Well, I agree with you, and thank you for saying that I may not have an answer for that, and I do not have an answer for that, but I'm fully aware of the situation, and I believe that basic research in any field, certainly in science and engineering, is critical, right, in the long run. And if you don't build that, keep that capacity, for example, we'll suffer, right? And universities traditionally have been the place where basic science research, engineering research is conducted because the incentives, of course, are science, right? Or the pursuit of truth, relatively speaking, right? And but today it's different, especially in computer science, because you just can't afford to pursue that kind of research. So therefore, more recent advances have been made by businesses, and of course, some of them are great, such as AlphaFold. I don't know if you know about that. They got Nobel Prize as a result, and some other research, which happened to be at University of Toronto, which is of course basic science or engineering research or math, computer science research. So this situation, I don't know. I agree with Dr. El-Mughrabi in that this is important. To the extent that we can, we should support that. But at the same time, we need to fully realize that perhaps to truly make a breakthrough, you have to have the infrastructure, the computing power, and so on and so forth.
There is some people are suggesting that the future of jobs because of AI is more like Uber-like, where they'll be more like independent contractors. The companies are not hiring. They want just people to do a la carte jobs as needed. And I'm seeing this already happening. Do you see this as a business trend that is maybe AI is exaggerating it?
Yes. One thing we teach in the business school is that your greatest asset is your people, which has been true because I was the interim dean for the College of Business for the last 3 years. So I was made acutely aware how important our people are. And I think it will continue to be the case going forward, though you're going to have less and less people because I think this is going to be the first generation of CEOs that will manage a human workforce alongside a digital workforce. In fact, Moderna, which is a very large pharmaceutical firm, has just merged their IT and human resource department because you really can't make meaningful human resource decisions without a deep understanding of information technology, right? So it goes beyond AI and this, say, for example, cybersecurity, which is critical today. And so that's those changes. I don't know how. I know that organization probably will be flatter, and I think um, anything is possible. But think about this: the last time something of this magnitude occurred, an entire new economic model has emerged, right? So I would call it the platform economy. So think about Uber that Dr. El-Mughrabi just mentioned. I mean, it's the largest taxi operator without owning a single vehicle, right? Airbnb is the same thing, it's the largest hotel operator without owning any real estate. So what model is going to emerge? I don't know. But I'm very excited about what's happening. And so this is why I encourage everybody to be innovative, to be entrepreneurial. This is the best time. And so innovation and entrepreneurship, along with the domain, the field that you happen to have a passion about.
Well, you hinted at cybersecurity.
Yeah.
And I guess I'll have to ask you about that.
Sure.
We're talking about mostly graduates and people who are developing AI. And we've been preaching, many of us, about vulnerability of AI to different types of attack. The traditional cybersecurity people have never studied, have never understood, and they will not understand. So we have to develop new awareness of a different type of cybersecurity. I know you work in database as well, and database security seems to be similar to what I'm seeing happening in AI attacks, and AI cyber is really getting knowledge that you shouldn't get. So, how do you think our graduates should prepare themselves to be ethically, at least, and legally responsible for what they are developing, to be a little more immune or less susceptible to cyber attacks?
Yes. So cyber attacks occur much more often than that have been published. Right? People want to hide it. Right? I organized. Let me give you an example. I'm not going to name the company. I know the CEO, and she told me that she found out that someone was on the payroll for months drawing a paycheck, but that person was digital, and it wasn't part of the company. They lost, of course, they suffered some losses, right? But that kind of losses are small, and many companies have near misses, and so this is occurring daily, every day. And so cybersecurity is certainly critical. You can't have an organization without clear cybersecurity strategy. So another thing that I have noticed is that cybersecurity and AI are merging. And I don't think you can talk about cybersecurity without talking about AI today. Some of the attacks maybe is designed by AI tools, and then you have to deploy AI technology to detect attacks, to defend yourself. And I think, I don't know. This is a field that I really have very little knowledge about.
But you can influence the future.
Yeah, yes, that's right. If you're
So
in a
how do
position,
you, yeah, how would you collectively influence your future by creating more AI and cyber educational pathways at our university? Because I, I'm recorded, but it's okay. They are siloed, and silos are. I'll say what Reagan said: tear down this wall across colleges and across departments. We want to really break these silos to create these new initiatives to prepare a different generation of graduates in AI and in cyber, in the hybrid between the two, in the quantum. So it's beyond what, by the way, when we created the CSE PhD program, we did it with electrical engineering initially. And I had a saying, because people, I was telling you, we don't need to replicate ourselves. We need to create a new generation that's different. And people were always stuck about what they know and how they train. And this is probably still happening today about AI and cyber. How do we break these silos and these traditions by infusing new ideas at the university and move forward in this area? You're a leader, I'm not. You at a higher level of influence, and what's your thought about how to break these?
I agree with you in that we really need to work together as a university, as a community, right? Not just within the university, but with Louisville, with Kentucky and beyond. So that's really critical. And so let's confine ourselves to the university, right? For the sake of this discussion. So yes, so I think we incumbents, like people in the field, like I'm in the business school, so I tend to focus on business issues, right? And there may be incentives for me to think about business issues, focus on business issues, which these incentives probably are great, right? But it may hinder us from going beyond, right? So, but I'm encouraged by the fact that we have had success working on uh, um, um, as a university rather than as individual units. So let me give you an example. I know that my colleague Andrew Wright and Guan, both those are professors in the business school, have been working with the speed school, Dr. El Mugrabi for one, and I think Adrian, I forgot his last name.
No.
Yeah, and then of course Sharon Carrick from the School of Education, and Jeff Sum to some degree. And these are three very different schools if you think about that,
And
right?
even arts and science, we work with.
Mike Lasavio. Yeah, I used to work out with Mike Lasavio, and so I know them all well, and I know for a fact that they have done a great job working together in a multi-unit effort to introduce mostly cybersecurity, but to a large extent also digital innovation. So that's an example. We have success formula. So we
But we
can
have
continue
not
that.
been able to translate it to the educational academia. And that's, I think, the biggest barrier because academics tend to be more difficult to change, because
Yeah.
they require more votes and more, I mean, but I don't want to put you on the spot because I realize that this is a challenge. I love what you said about integration beyond university, which is creating partnership with businesses, government institutions. That's what we've been aiming at all along here in Hive, and we are succeeding to some extent. But I really love how you said because that gets the people to experience interaction within the university and outside with these businesses and government institutions. So I really love this. The trouble is there is a perspective from many businesses, particularly when I go to the university, it's a cheaper place. When I ask them for help, I don't pay as much as going to another business, and that's an image that I think is sometimes challenging. But
Yeah, Dr. El Mugrabi, and you're the moderator. So I think if you go to Wikipedia or a dictionary, I think the definition is that the role of a moderator is to put the person on the spot, right? And he's done that a few times, or tried to at least a few times today, and that's fine. So I'm an academic innovator. I consider myself an innovator, and I think our academic products have to change, adapt, right? New products may be created, some older products may be retired. In general, right? I'm not saying any specific product, but using the business school as an example, we worked with Dr. Andrew Wright, who's also in the room. We created the AI minor, right? And so that's in response to what's happening in the marketplace. And so, but I think more fundamental changes may occur, right? So let me give you some examples. Um, I don't know if you know about Khan Academy, and also the Two Sigma hypothesis by Bloom. Forgot his name, maybe Bloomfield. He proposed that in the 80s that students learn much better when they have a one-on-one tutor. And so Khan Academy created an AI tutor, math tutor, and they tested it on about 150,000 students, so it's not a small sample. And they found that for every hour of use of the math tutor, the average student performance improved by about 1/50th of a standard deviation. So that's significant if you think about that. If you spend 50 hours, you improve your performance by one standard deviation, which is significant, right? If you look at the bell curve. So that's interesting, right? So I think, for example, how do we change the way we teach and the students learn so that through the use of AI, innovative use of AI, creating AI tutors, we in the business school, we are looking into this. I think it's probably not difficult to create using the technology we have today. And so again, I think the university uh, has made great achievements in the last few years. If you look at the enrollment, right, the retention rate, those are huge milestones, and the ranking also has improved. And so this is a perfect time for us to take us to the next level through academic innovations, through different units working together, and then through Dr. Elmo Grabi not putting me on the spot.
So I'll have one more kind of philosophical on the spot issue. There are two trends that are against education. One of them is skill-based hiring versus degree-based hiring. And maybe there is less trust in degrees. People want to test skills. That's one thing. Then there is the AI innovation, which is the AI has been touted at it's now the equalizer. It's affecting the white collar people, not the blue collar, which in the past most innovations affected the blue collar. So I mean, between these two trends, how do we tell our students it's worth your time to stay and don't quit? And how do we attract new people, uh, given that there are giving these messages through the media and through some of the businesses that are not looking at what they studied? And I have my own philosophical, but I'm sure you have even better depth from a business and computer perspective together.
Yeah, we probably see many things in the same way, right? So I mean, if you look back at history, we used to teach Latin in at universities, right? In subjects that we no longer teach today. And so we have changed, right? We have been adopting. But the current education model, I'm not an expert in this field, so I'm just speaking my own personal opinion. And so the current educational model is such that, to a very large degree, the outcome is dependent upon the amount of time you spend in the classroom, or say, for example, we have a semester, right? And then we have a 4-year degree and so on and so forth. It all implies this time is critical. And then, of course, this is a model that's probably, I read somewhere on the internet, that's probably based on the industrial revolution era, in that, like it's assembly line, right? I mean, you put a student on the assembly line, and then you put this subject and the next subject and then the subject after that and so on and so forth. There's certainly a lot of merit because that's how I have learned, and I have found it to be very well for me, right? But also at the time we didn't have the technologies that we have today, right? Such as AI tutoring, for example. And I've talked to numerous students who have told me that the AI really helped them understand it, understand the topic, right? So a professor would present a topic in one way, and the student probably would find it much more meaningful when it was explained in a slightly different way. And maybe even when the student can have a conversation with AI, maybe at 2 a.m. in the morning when the student comes back from UPS shift, he or she can say, hey, could you give me an example, and could you walk me through that example? Now imagine that, right? Imagine how much more effective learning could be. And so that's just a simple example. So I would say, even the entire fundamental model may could be reviewed. And I'm not saying that we should change it. I'm just saying that we should open to ideas. We should open to possibilities that are being made available to us through the use of technologies such as AI. And AI is moving really, really fast. I don't know if you guys follow, but Anthropic just released Claude 4.5. Okay, I haven't tried it myself, but it says that it can continuously program for 36 hours. So that's interesting, right? I know that it's almost at the speed that Dr. Elmo Brabi, your student, former student Brian, can program. So this is game changing, and and then of course it's the worst AI that we're going to have, right? So how do we think about how we do carry on our life, how we work, and what the future is going to be like? It's all going to be affected by this. So I know that the time is limited. I
Yeah.
probably have
No, no, that's a wonderful challenge because meaning that the challenge is continuing, and but I challenge you to say, if you were a fresh developer, would you trust AI blindly for scalability, security, efficiency, which we emphasize in our designs? Because it's grabbing the knowledge from many places. Some are good, some are bad. So how do we trust that the Anthropic and these AI development tools are really going to the standards that we expect, or without us learning the foundation so we can judge them at least?
Thank you. So I don't know the audience. You probably we have people probably online. People, yeah, different people. Okay, but I just want you to know that Dr. Elmo Grabi first said he was going to put me on the spot, and then he said he's going to challenge me, and so on and so forth. I don't know. I'm not used to that kind of treatment, but that's okay. So anyway, the question was brought up by this release of Claude, right, 4.5, and it's certainly very very interesting question. So I don't know if you watch Star Trek. It's a really old sci-fi show, and then do you know an engineer? I forgot which series called Geordie, who wears.
Thank you, Dr. Lau. Next
Yeah.
generation.
And anyway, so the way he diagnoses problems, because he's the chief engineer, right, for the engine, and the way he diagnoses problems, the way he research, I mean, that's the future, probably in the not too distant future. And I shared this with my colleague, Dr. White, who's here in the room, that in say, for example, in medical science, right, in the lab, you can have a polymathy AI helping you. When you get a result that doesn't agree with the hypothesis, you can ask your AI. I have an iPhone. I might say, "Hey Siri, why doesn't the hypothesis agree with the results?" And then your polymathy AI, who understands biology, biochemistry, engineering, math, and all of these subjects really, 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 really well. Okay, and then they will go carry on with the conversation, right? And so that's a very likely scenario in the near future, like near future meaning about 10, 15, maybe years, maybe 25 years. But that's not the point. But today, I probably wouldn't trust AI to build everything. I would be very wary, especially to say, for example, to manage your power stations, nuclear power stations, to manage your EMS services, and so on and so forth. Human in the loop is still very critical. I don't see an end to that, but
That's reassuring, actually. Thank you. I guess time is out, but I'll give you a chance to give me a tough question if you want.
oh, You?
Yeah, you can even, you felt that I was challenging. You know, in fairness, I'll give you that chance.
I'm a nice individual. And
Nice,
Very dry sense of humor.
niceness doesn't preclude
no,
challenges. We stay nice even when challenged.
So I think this is a time of change, and I think we as a species, Homo sapiens, are probably undergoing the biggest transformation in our lives and in the life of our species, excuse me, in the history of our species. And so I think so. How would engineering change your mind, and how would that change affect the rest of us?
I mean, I'm non-traditionalist. Actually, I have the belief that it's better to give the students more choices to create their own curriculum than to have a sequential curriculum of our, say you have to do this, 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 to call yourself a computer engineer or to call yourself a chemical engineer. I'd give them bundles and things to choose from and let them create their own brand and their own ability with some minimal standards to assure that they are not there. So I think engineering will move to be more uh, multidisciplinary education across engineering first, with some even business more education in it, because the future requires it. And I don't think even the silos within the engineering would be maintained. We have industrial engineers who are working in AI. We have chemical engineers who are working in AI, and they need to learn more programming and more things. And we have computer engineers that are learning the engineering through applications in other areas. So this fusion of areas is becoming more real. And if we don't accept it, we're creating people who are more replicas of an older generation of engineers, and they may disappear in the marketplace and be absorbed and not survive. So I think change is inevitable.
Thank you. I agree with that.
Thank you so much. Anyway, I really appreciate having Jeff agree with his time to get here, and
I'm honored.
we give one question, not a long one. Yeah.
I have a business question for you. Your opinion. I'm concerned that the true cost, the business cost of AI is being hidden from us. Most of these tools are free or some minimal subscription. They're being offered by companies that have never turned a profit. They're spending billions of dollars on this technology that everybody is trying to take advantage of. And as you said earlier, for widespread deployment, we need data centers that don't exist, run by power companies and power facilities that don't exist. Where does the money for all that come from? And wouldn't the businesses have to pay for what they're actually getting from these tech companies running the AI? And I just feel like there's a true cost that is being hidden from us. And how does that compare to the cost of a human being? Because some places we still hire humans because they're cheaper than robots.
Thank you.
Excellent question, Brian. And
You may need to repeat the question for them.
oh yes. So the question is the what is
recorded? Yeah.
it's
it'll pick it
recorded?
up.
Okay, it's recorded. Okay, excellent. So that's a great question, and there's quite a bit of hype about AI and the promise of AI. And some companies are jumping on AI. Some AI companies have emerged, and those probably won't last. But we don't know which ones. But I I would like to think of this as three different ways in terms of cost, right? AI can benefit a business in three different ways. Productivity gain, which is the low-hanging fruit. And then redesign of existing work. The existing processes can be redesigned. And number three, which is the biggest bang for the buck, is the design of new work. And let me give you an example. I know a investment fund manager. Okay? I'm not going to name the name or the name of the company. He manages about $4 billion. And when he make an investment, he has to do due diligence in two different areas. Number one, he has to research the company. And in other words, the quarterly reports, any communication released by the company. And then another analysis that he has to do is the analysts' expectations. They publish reports, right? And so he said before AI, he had 2 financial analysts, each spending at least 2 weeks on each topic. And then he had to spend time merging their analysis, reading the analysis, and so on and so forth. For a $20 subscription to Perplexity, you can do it both in a few hours and at a much higher quality. So now, productivity gain is obvious, right? He doesn't need those 2 financial analysts. But he also has a much more efficient process. But really, the biggest bang for the buck is this. He told me that all of a sudden, I can compete with the likes of BlackRock, which is a very large financial firm. He said, I couldn't compete with BlackRock because I didn't have an army of financial analysts. I still don't. And BlackRock does. I mean, they can just pour resources and do all kinds of simulations, so on and so forth. And so now, this is a game changer. Now I can start to think about offering products and services that I couldn't before because of labor costs. I have numerous examples like that. So Brian, you're right. We don't know, right? But the people are paying for these services. And Anthropic, for example, 18 months ago, a couple of years ago, was I forgot the numbers, but like $100 million a year in revenue. Today it's $5 billion. So it's happening for some companies, right? Anthropic has the largest non-US subscribers. And the new release has fantastic financial features. And think about the new products and services that are going to emerge. I know that, Brian, you look awfully young, so you probably wouldn't know who Mike Milton is. And he's a financier, very famous if you look him up. But he said when Excel spreadsheet came out, all of a sudden, his ability to do analysis was totally changed. He said you could sit on the bed at 2 a.m. in the morning, play financial scenarios of the company that he wanted to invest in, right? Because there are so many different variables. Excel can do that for him, someone who didn't know how to program. And this investment banker, I mean, he had never programmed in his life, still hasn't. But he's able to use Perplexity for $20 a month. And now we have Sintra, I think, web that has business professionals for hire. You can hire an accountant for $9 a month. So it can do basic functions. This is coming. And this is very rudimentary. But imagine, right? In about 18 months, in about 3 years, what it will be like. So that's why it's a massive change. And we don't know. There are so many opportunities looking at the people here in the room. I mean, this is your time. I'm so jealous. I'm pretty sure Dr. Elmo Grabi is also very jealous.
Well, that's our success. When they succeed, we succeed.
But aren't you jealous of them?
No, I'm happy for them. I'm very happy for them, and I compete with them. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you all. He may not run away immediately. If you want to talk to him, he might. The food and the chai are there. Please help yourself.